It is amazing to have you here with us and have an opportunity to talk to you about your film, Daniel. I
Thank
thoroughly
you.
enjoyed your film.
Oh,
Congratulations.
thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
It's an interesting topic. It's not something that some people like to talk about, but I wanted to get a little sense of where your thoughts for this film came from. You were born in Cuernavaca, Mexico, but you grew up in New Jersey. Um, I know in Mexico, death is, which is part of your film or the main basis of the film that that is running on empty.
All of your tests have been completed to get your death date. Are you ready for your results?
Oh my God, I'm gonna die.
It's okay. What does it say?
21,490.
Nicole, that's almost 60 years from now.
What does yours say, babe?
345.
Days?
That is not ideal.
My ex-fiance dropped me like a hot potato. Do I start dating again?
I'm Mortimer. I am a mortician.
You know what, Mr. Addison? That is not your shade.
Do you wanna film?
Romantic.
Hey, do you wanna get out of here?
I've never had sex with a prostitute before.
Professional escort.
Sorry, with a professional escort.
Rita? You're dead! I didn't do anything to her.
Well, you still owe me for Rita's services.
She said it was free.
I ain't handed out free samples. This ain't Trader Joe's.
And your lead character, Mortimer, he is a mortician. So he's kind of familiar with death. Did you do that on purpose so that you could kind of justify the fact that he's not totally freaked out about the fact that he only has a few months to live? Well, more than
Yeah.
a few, but
Yeah, I mean, I think that was sort of that was a good idea, or that was sort of, let's take a character who's around death all the time, and then he has to deal with it personally. And for Mortimer particularly, and a lot of people maybe who work around death, I think they might have a very different view or be a little bit colder to the idea, or not. Maybe it doesn't bother them as much. And I think more what he discovers more than dealing with his impending death is dealing with his impending life that he's with now, and it forces him to have to really look at himself and his life and figure out what is the purpose of all of this. And so that was just kind of, those were all themes that I think are important and present in my life, and I think important and present in a lot of other people's lives.
so where did this idea come from? Because I love the idea. It's something we should talk about. It's something we shouldn't fear. But I love the whole idea of how you put it together. So where did that come from?
Thank you. Yeah, it was. I mean, I think death it's just such a common thing we all have in common, but yet we don't talk about. And as you were saying, I think in our culture, well, in America, it's particularly taboo. It's something that's kind of hidden from sight. It's not talked about much. And you're right. In other cultures, death is very different. It's whether a funeral is more of a celebration of life. Some cultures, they actually bring the body home and have it in their home for several days or a week, and it's always fascinated me. Me, like I think a lot of people, when I was a kid, I was fearful or curious about death, but it's hard for us to learn it. They don't tell us anything about it, and when we go to school, we have religion and things like that, but it doesn't really deal with the actual day-to-day life and death. So that was always been a subject I've been interested in and wanting to tackle. But then again, you have to figure out, I wanted to juxtapose it against something funny, of course, to give it some humor. And it just kind of spawned off of that and kind of developed into this. And then, you think about, well, if you were going to die, but you have like 2 years and you want to date somebody, we still have a need for love.
So what kind of gal are you looking for?
Kind, honest, a little bit boring, maybe. You're gonna die soon? I'm gonna die soon. Let's go on a date.
I'd love to hang out with you again.
It's gonna be okay, I promise.
It's not like I have much time to build a future with someone.
And of course, we live in a world that loves to monetize everything. So, I'm sure if they ever do find out how to tell us our death date, they're going to come up with ways to make money off it, whether it's a dating service or this or that, and or the world will kind of conform to it.
I just joined this dating service that matches you with people based on death dates.
Are we doing your video interview?
Don't make me use it.
Go on then. I don't even care. I'm gonna die anyway.
You better have my money in full by midnight tomorrow.
Or he's going to hurt me.
So he finds out he's going to not be around for a while. And then there's this dating service for people who also know their date of when they're going to pass away. What did you call it? The LDC?
LDC, life day count.
Life death count. So it's interesting. The film takes place in San Fernando Valley. Why San Fernando Valley?
So it's when I moved back to LA in 2012, I landed in Sherman Oaks. And for just for some background, the international release is actually going to have the original title, which is Mort in Sherman Oaks. And aside from it being an homage to a lot of films that I loved growing up, it was also sort of my homage to the Valley. It was just, it was a place that became my home. I've lived there now, I think, longer than I've lived anywhere else in my life. And it was just important. I felt it was important to kind of pay tribute to it, or at least, have it as the backdrop.
So did you always want to be a filmmaker, or when was it that you decided, this is what I'm going to do? This is what I love?
Probably when I was 5 years old. When I was 5 years old, we were in New Jersey at the time, and I told my mom I wanted to act. I was always into music and performing and this and that and whatever. And so based on my want and my need, my mom helped me find an acting teacher, and I started acting, and we moved to Arizona, and I had an agent when I was a kid, did some kid acting. But I was also one of those kids. I had a camcorder, and I was making my home movies when I was, 10 years old, and editing them in my bedroom. So yeah, it's something I've always known. I've always, I spent, I think, a good part of my life also as a DJ and producing music, but at the same time, I would always act in maybe a short film here or there, or make a short film. So I've always known. It's just it's more or less. I won't say it's a burden because I love it, but it's like, this is who I am, and I've always known
It's a need.
I'm an artist.
It's a need and a passion that you have.
Absolutely.
So this is your first film, and I know you already have ideas for your second film. So for audiences that are watching, what would you tell them? I know what I got from the film. I got life lessons that are learned in a funny situation. And you find that life is life. And then you never know what to expect. But what would you tell your audience that this is about, coming from your perspective?
It's hard for me to say, because I always like to say it doesn't matter what I think, it matters what the audience thinks. And it reminds me, I paint sometimes too. I'm a painter, and my father's wife one time looked at one of my paintings, and she was telling me all of the interesting things that she saw in it, and they're rather abstract. And she mentioned all of these things that I didn't paint in it, but she saw in the painting. And that was much more fascinating for me, and I think for her, than me telling her what I painted. As an artist, I kind of make stuff, and then I try and connect with people that way. And so for me, it's really about what other people take away from it. For me, though, I will say it's a process of, I will say this: when I first wrote the film, I still had, a good normal dose of fear of death. And after it, through not just the process of making the film, but a lot of other personal stuff and spiritual stuff, I have no fear of death now. So, that was just kind of a bonus thing I got from going through this process.
How long ago did you start the project?
I think I finished the script, and it's been a process, 2016. And then we shot it in 2022, and then of course the pandemic kind of delayed a lot of stuff. But for me, it was more about doing it right. And I think as a director, I think directing, one thing I will say as a director, I think a lot of directing is totally overhyped or overrated or gets too much credit, because for me, it's really about picking the team, picking the cast, picking the crew of other great collaborators and creatives, because once you have them, it takes a big load off of my plate. So, you know, our cast alone was just so amazing, that it wasn't about necessarily what I did. It was just me steering the ship a little this way or a little bit that way. But really, when you give other artists the freedom to do what it is they're supposed to do, I believe great things come of it. And I really feel that that's what made this film the way it is, was the collaboration with all of the artists, from the department heads, to the cast, to the producers, to everybody. I couldn't be happier with what we got out of it.
You did an amazing job. Everyone did.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing all this.
Thank you.
Remember, everyone, it comes out in August. Make sure you
Yes.
follow Daniel André so that you can find out all the details. Thank you so much, Daniel.
Great. Thank you so much.
Bye.